me for revealing the truth about Tor, that it's just a bunch of farting in a closed space for 1 month. It really is so gross. And trying not to get sick and eating like wellness formula, and then getting a stomach ache because like all you ate that day was like a tater tot or something, and then they're like that big, the wellness formulas. It's hard out there on the road, man. Our next performer really knows how hard it is out there on the road, because I feel like Cassie J. Sneider spends most of her life on the road. In fact, she doesn't even live here, but she's making it to all the Sister Spit shows, including one in LA last week, even though she lives in New York City. She's amazing. She's the creator of the book Fine Fine Music, which is an illustrated novel, and she just came with us on our last tour. Please welcome Cassie J. Sneider.
Thank you. So in the book, I've got a bunch of illustrations, which some of them are behind me and available in poster form if you want to like gross out your friends. They were pretty embarrassing to have scanned. Here's a story about failure. I found the remote under a pile of quick picks and coupons and turned on the TV. The only thing that was worth watching was Maury, punctuated by commercials for slip-and-fall law firms, disposable catheters, and trade schools. There were probably news shows on other channels, public broadcasting that would tell me what was going on in the world, but that wasn't what I wanted. If you were watching cable at your parents' house due to a breakup complete with infidelity, a mortgage, and a consequent financial earthquake, you don't want to be a better person. You want polygraphs and paternity tests. You want women running off stage and throwing themselves onto the couch in the green room. You want to feel better at the expense of others. Deep down, I always knew I would end up being part of a marketing demographic that included advertisements for $5 pizza buffets. In my career as a short-term minimum wage field specialist, I had never once been asked about my education, an upsetting reality for someone 25 grand in the hole for the 6 most wasted years of their life spent getting a 4-year degree. For that money, I could have sailed around the world with 5,000 half-price appetizers from the mall eatery of my choice, and I would have felt a lot better about paying interest on something that was at least a good story. I'm getting off track here. I had one less thing to worry about because Laura had gotten me a job. She was sleeping with the manager of the record store where she worked, whom she described as looking like Henry Rollins, if he had a lazy eye, like a really bad one. Technically, I was qualified for the job because I had worked at the last record store left in my hometown. An orangutan who could sign the letters O-Z-Z-Y is also a qualified record store clerk. But it's one of those jobs where you have to know someone, like town councilman or NBA housewife, even if it only paid a glamorous $8 an hour. But thanks to my best friend's complimentary bad decisions, I had promising employment right out of the gate. Once the futon in my old room had been made up with twin sheets I had hoped I would never see again as an adult, I really had no idea what to do with myself. I didn't start my new record store gig for another 2 days, and any friend in my decaying hometown had long ago come to their senses and moved away. Lake Ronkonkoma isn't exactly a bustling metropolis, so after sitting down with an episode of Maury, soaking in lives slightly worse than mine, I grabbed my keys and went to Walmart. "What are you making?" asked the attendant at the cutting table of Joanne's Fabric and Crafts. He said it with breathy exasperation, like he was trying out for the role of Norman Desmond in an annoyed small-town queer version of Sunset Boulevard. "I think I'm going to make a Muppet of myself." This had sounded like a solid plan in my head, but now that I was saying it out loud, a woman in her late 20s about to spend a Monday afternoon making a puppet of herself, who just moments before was digging in a linen closet for a fitted California raisin sheet, it probably sounded peculiar to anyone who hadn't survived similar circumstances. He trailed off sympathetically. Usually, I would feel weird about that, a perfect stranger obviously feeling sorry for me, but today I was okay with it. In fact, if there was ever a day to accept a stranger's sympathy, it would be the day you move back home. Today, my pathetic circumstances would fuel some crafts I could then show my mom when she got off work, and hear her say, "That's nice," before she opened the foil of her cigarettes and went outside, where she didn't have to be bothered by either her adult children who had failed at life or their puppet likenesses. The scissors glided through the yellow velour I had chosen to replicate myself in. The sales associate handed me a receipt and smiled the way you would if you saw somebody walking a 3-legged dog. The automatic doors opened to the cold January air, and I walked across the parking lot to Walmart for an oil change and more art supplies. I'd been morally against shopping at Walmart until I bought a house with someone in a small town where it crushed all the competition, holding the pillow over the faces of Belmont, North Carolina's mom and pop until there was nothing but that ominous smiling face glowing yellow in the dark for miles. If there's any room in your late 20s for principles or righteous indignation at corporations, then maybe you're not doing it right. I found ping pong balls I could use for puppet eyes in the sporting goods department and wandered near the automotive section. I had discovered on the move back home that my windshield wipers were no longer functioning except to smear rain into the permanent layer of bird shit and pollen, transforming it into a gross, earth-toned Burning Man art car with limited visibility. I looked at my choices of wiper blades, trying to discern what would match with my car when somebody stopped in the aisle and asked if I needed help. "More than you can assist with, my friend," I said, clicking the back of the packaging. "Are you the lady with the Toyota? Like, the one with all the stuff in it?" I looked up to see a Walmart employee earnestly staring at me. Was this person really judging my level of cleanliness on the day I was trying to stay positive? How could anyone not sense that this was the first day of my new life? "Because I could install those blades for you free of charge on account of you getting an oil change and all." Okay, cool. I handed him the wiper blades. "Thanks." He rocked back on his boot heels, brushing a wisp of hair from his face. "No problem. So what brings you to Walmart today?" An oil change and ping pong balls? You a big beer pong player?" He smiled, the straight white teeth of good suburban orthodontia. No. There was a long pause, and I felt compelled to keep talking. "It's for puppet eyes. I'm making a muppet of myself." That's cool. So you're like a puppeteer?" "Not really, I just wanted to see if I could do it." He held the blades and stared at me. "That's totally cool. So what's like your real job?" "I'm a writer, sort of. I do other stuff too." "Whoa, no way. I'm a writer too. I'm like working on a novel. My name's Tom." He held out his hand, which struck me as a really weird customer service initiative. Cassie?" His handshake lingered. This was a shocking turn of events. Was I being hit on in a Walmart? Was this how normal people did things? Well, I'm going to install these blades for you and finish up your oil change. Good meeting you, Cassie." Tom walked away, smiling back at me once. When he finished the oil change, he asked for my number, which I gave him because I clearly had nothing better to do. Some people are really good at making decisions. They allow their internal compass to guide them in their darkest moments. They know exactly what they want and order with confidence when the waiter asks if they are ready. "I'm gonna need another minute," I said, and the waitress sighed and walked back to the kitchen. I gave a half smile to the person sitting across from me, who had made a concerted effort to attract me by fumigating themselves with a protective cloud of Axe body spray. I looked back down at the menu, waffling somewhere between an omelet and just ice cream. The waitress came back, pulling a golf pencil from behind her ear, and looked at me first. Sometimes my own awkwardness in the face of poor choices was stunning, marvelous, should be studied behind glass. I sputtered my order. Sundae, strawberry." Tom was sweating, and the menu shook in his hands until he set it down on the table. He had been 5 minutes late and apologized profusely for it in a way that most people couldn't even touch if they had run over a kid. He ordered fries with gravy, and the waitress took away the menus. There was nothing to hide behind. I aligned my spoon with my fork in a way that was parallel to the white paper napkin. Everyday geometry for crazy people. So Tom, what kind of stuff do you write?" "Oh, like deep stuff. Some poetry, some sci-fi genre stuff. My novel is like dark sci-fi, but my poems are about like life, you know." I see. Which aspects of life? Digestion, respiration?" I let out a half chuckle and then stopped myself. "Oh, like everything, just like how it is, like for real." There was a long pause. I took in some of the unbridled realness of it all, and then he added, "I use a typewriter, like a real one." Doesn't that make editing hard? It seems a little impractical. "No, I just let it flow. Whatever happens, happens. It just is what it is." I took a thoughtful sip of coffee. So who are some of your favorite writers?" Oh, Bukowski's definitely #1. I just get him, you know. And probably Ginsberg and J.K. Rowling. That's quite a mountain. The waitress brought out our food and I started in on my sundae, hoping the warp speed I usually ate at would hasten this date along so I could go home to finish up the Muppet I had started. It was coming along nicely and I was proud of myself for cracking some sort of puppet code with my mostly useless talents. Tom dipped a French fry into a small platter of gravy and spoke, waving the fry like a geology professor pointing to a topographical map. For my 21st birthday, I drove out to the Hamptons with my typewriter and bought a bottle of whiskey. Then I got a hotel room and drank and wrote for like 3 days. Actually, I don't remember how long because I totally blacked out. He smiled, my cue to be really impressed. I thought about Bukowski and how he had basically ruined every almost fuckable American 20-something male with the notion that drinking yourself into Crohn's disease was the same as being creative. Oh, cool. So how long ago was that, your 21st birthday? Oh, like last year, he said, punctuating the air with a fry. It was like inhaling poppers before a ramrod of information was shoved into my brain. So you're only 22? Yeah, he said. Why, how old are you? Old enough to know better, I said, suddenly feeling the creakiness in my hips, the gray of my hair, and the bunions that forced me out of heels. He shook pepper over his plate. There's no way you're that old. Even if you were, I've had sex with lots of older women. I was doing this one lady in her 40s I met at a bar. I'm like into cougars. The night blurred into white noise, punctuated by the waitress putting the check on the table. I paid for myself and went home, where my mother was up watching television. I showed her the puppet I was working on, and she said it was nice. Then she shuffled around in her purse for a lighter and went outside while I brushed my teeth and went to bed so I can get an early start on my new life. Thank you, guys.